everyone. My name is Inigo Cruz. I'm part of the Ya Hacemos Europeos team, and I will be your guide through this journey on the External Action Service internal competitions. First of all, a short apology because we intended this webinar to happen a bit earlier. We know that the deadline to deliver your applications is in a few days' time, but some incidents prevent us of doing it earlier than today. But hopefully it will be for good. Good news is that still there's plenty of time before your exam. This is going to be recorded. It will be uploaded in our YouTube channel also. So if you want to rewatch or to see again any of the aspects that we will cover today, especially in relation with the multiple choice and the written test, you will have it here for your free consultation. So good news at least. Okay, fine. So let's go for it. How we are going to proceed? Very simple. Oops. Okay. Practical approach. So we will avoid speculations only if we need to add something that, based on our experience and best knowledge, we think or we see as the most likely probable or scenario. We will make change of color, and we will indicate. For the rest, we are going to bring you the notice of competition, the Q&A, and all the official information available. Okay, because sometimes, as the format is not the easiest one to approach, we as candidates, we have many things to do at the same time. We don't pay attention to some aspects. So we will help you to not to forget them and to get the best from the available sources and some other ideas, especially in relation with the multiple choice and the written test, as I said before. Okay, on that part, just one small request, only one small. The menu for today was we are going to cover the application, the notice, the logistics, few comments on the logistics of the exam. Then we will focus on the writing and the multiple choice. And then at the end, we will open micros chat for your questions. Don't worry. We will stay here as long as needed to answer your questions. But that's why we only asked you to wait until the end for any question, any thought that you have. Why? Because sometimes it happens that we have foreseen your question, but it's not coming right in the slide that you have in front of you. It's coming a couple of slides later. So give us that fair treatment of a bit of time to explain everything. And of course, if something is missing, something is not clear, feel free to ask at the end. That's the only thing we ask in exchange of all this. So let's start. Let's go for it. Okay. I'm addressing directly the eligibility criteria. This is one of the main questions that you as candidate usually have. So the beauty of your competition, of the internal competition, is that eligibility criteria are quite simple, clear. So compared to other competitions that you have to do a lot of math or pay a lot of attention on the criteria, this time I think it's quite straightforward, provided that you are staff of the External Action Service. This must be clear because sometimes there are some other candidates, some other colleagues of you that are working in a delegation, they are working abroad within the framework of the External Action Service, but their contract or they, statutorily speaking, they belong to the Commission. In that case, they are not allowed to participate in this competition. You need to be part of the External Action Service, clearly. And on that part, if we take for 86, it's simple that you need to be temporary agent, AD, or contract agent, group 4. And here there are very good news for the group 4 contractual agents in the External Action Service, as you can participate in this competition and in the AST competition. That's fantastic news. 2 chances. Good, right? So the three criteria are common in the sense of being at the moment that you submit and the deadline for the application ends, meaning 30th of June. You have a contract in force. That in the 2nd or the 1st of July you are fired. You are no longer working, but on the 30th you were working for the External Action Service. That's perfectly fine. So you have to be serving for the External Action Service for 36 months, full months. But I worked for the External Action Service 10 years ago for 3 years. And then now, the last year, I've been working as a temporary agent. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's 36. Well, plus last year, that will make 48 months, so more than enough. And then third criteria is the last 12 months, full months, working in the case of ED6 as a group AD temporary agent or contract agent, group 4. Simple, right? Then for the AST2, what I mentioned, the big difference is that the AV4s can be part of this competition as well. Also, group 3, of course, temporary agents in the category of AST and AST-AC at this moment. During your career, 36 months. And again, the last 12 months as a temporary agent is the AST-AC or contract agent 3 and 4. It doesn't change. And for AST-AC, same ideas, but in this time it's contract agents group 2 plus temporary agent AST-AC. So not big deal, rather simple how it is done. On top of this, some complementary ideas and elements. The fact that the notice is already including the element that need to be considered in case it's your situation, and if you when they say the following administrative statuses within the meaning, blah blah blah, are taken into account for the calculation of required period. So active employment, leave for military service, parental leave, or family leave. Usually this is the trickiest one because we tend to think, oh, I was on a parental leave, I'm not allowed. No, you are allowed, and so on. But there's an exception for ED6 and ASTs. For ASTs, ACs is not included that last paragraph in the red frame. Just take that into account. The thing that I like the most from your notice of competition is the fact that you don't need to introduce further info or any consideration, as your education is presumed and your work experience, as is counted, your 36 months of experience in the External Action Service. That's enough for this competition. That saves a lot of time. Remember, it saves a lot of time provided that you give access to your CISPR profile to the members of the board of the competition in order to check your eligibility. You have the right to say no, but then you will have to provide the papers that prove that you fulfill the eligibility criteria. It's a fair condition. And also, to be honest and fair with the organizer of the competition, I think the Q&A document that they have provided and some parts of the notice are relatively clear. Compared with other competitions, this time was, relatively easy to read, although sometimes can look as a lot of information, but don't worry. I mean, give yourself time. Still, you have until Monday to finalize all these elements. It shouldn't take very long, just a few minutes. Then the language. That's another thing that comes a lot to us, a lot of questions regarding the language. The fact that you first, before applying, check on CISPR what are your languages. Because you see, that's when you get on CISPR, you say first language, second language, third language, administrative language, payslip language. That's a typical CISPR display. So imagine that you are a native speaker of French, that's usually the first language, the one that is marked French. Then the second language is English. So you can apply and you can have as a exam, as a language for the exams, for the competition, English. That's perfect. What you cannot use is French. Remember that this is done to avoid some advantage by native speakers, French or English. So that's why it cannot be the first language. It needs to be the second language. That's one thing. But that's why it's so important that CISPR is clearly specified the languages. Because sometimes there are mistakes, clerical mistakes. We've seen them. I remember I was a Baltic friend who had as a first language English instead of his language. So that prevents this person to apply to the internal competition using English. But it was a bit weird. This person has to use another language. So it had to be corrected on CISPR and then apply. That's the important thing. Check CISPR. Check that your languages are clear, first language, second language, and you use your second language for the competition, English or French. So an example that cannot be is the first language, English, second language, English. first of all, in CISPR, it shouldn't be like that. But just in case, just to give you an extreme case that it couldn't be. Hope this is clear regarding the languages. Not big deal. Don't overcomplicate yourself. It's much simpler than anything else. And so the idea is that all of you are at the same level. I mean, all of you are using a working language in order to take the competition, the exams of the competition. So this is regarding the logistics. I mean, shouldn't be difficult. Well, rather simple. So far, dominated, right? Now let's approach little by little to the test. There was one thing that I don't know if you have read it already, but it's in the info panel of your competition that the exams will not take place before October. Could they be the 1st of October? Yes. They say before October. 30th of September cannot. 1st of October, yes, they could. Don't get overconfident. If they say October, it will be November. No. Just assume it's 1st of October. But this has been published on the web, so we consider this official information. So the good news is that we have the summer, first of all, to have at least a couple of weeks just to relax and chill. And then the rest of the summer to study. And I'm serious on that part because we see many candidates that have spent the whole summer studying. I mean, considering that October is still a bit far, 3 months ahead of us, I mean, I think there is time to relax, chill, recover your strength, gather your forces again, and then study. Don't try to spend the whole summer just studying, doing nothing else, meaning relaxing, chilling, recovering, because I mean, working in the institution is tough. You have to devote a lot of energy, and it's always good to recover that energy. It's always good to have it with you. So that's why personal advice: rest a little bit. I'm not saying you spend the whole summer doing nothing. That will be a waste of time. But at least a couple of weeks, enjoying family, friends, good weather, a good place, nice place, and then we start working hard on it. Remember also that you will be officially communicated about all the details of your exam. So far, we haven't seen any information available what's going to be the platform for your exam. So we are using as a reference the internal competitions from the Commission for some detail that we are going to share with you now. But please, please, please be very attentive to all the official information that you will get as candidate from the organizers of your competition. Read it, and in case of contradiction between what you get officially from the organizers and what we can say here with all the best intentions, but of course limited to the existing knowledge, always follow the official instructions. That's it. But it will help you to get an idea, because at the end it doesn't change so much. Even if the platform that they may use for the exam is a different one, still they are all very similar. Shouldn't be a problem. But as a recapitulation, before we move into more practical terms of the exam, so remember how it's going to be your competition, your process. Be patient. That's a second advice we can offer you, because the process is going to be long. You have the application, you have the MCQ and written October. So then they have to correct the exam and check the eligibility. Yeah, I know. For each competition, only the 60 best in the MCQ will be uneligible, will be reviewed the written test. Fine, but still, we're talking about 180 tests or written test. It takes time. It's not done in 1 day or two. They need at least a couple of weeks and revisions and all this process, the process to guarantee the fair treatment to all of you. So meaning that at the end, oral tests, we are thinking that they will be at the end of the year. That's our calculation. If it's early October, the exam could be end November. That could be. That could be, but we don't expect that 2 weeks after the test, multiple choice and written, you will have the orals, something like that. That will be far too early. So there is time for everything. So now it's time to prepare the multiple choice and the written. Then it's time to prepare the oral test. There will be plenty of time to do so. but also with the caveat that the results of your competition very likely will be very end of 2025 if we are lucky. If we are not lucky, January, February 2026. So be patient. That's a lesson that we have learned from other internal competitions, and that's why it's in a different color, because it's what we think based on the information available. There's no official confirmation on the deadline, at least of what we have seen. Then logistical consideration, general remarks. This is valid for the three competitions. It will be in a computer. Your exam, in principle, it's an internal competition. You can use your corporate computer. That was corporate is advised, because usually IT services of your institution, of the external action service, will check that the corporate laptops are adequate to take the competition. I'm saying this because in the external competitions, EPSA competitions, you are not allowed, or you are non-advised to use corporate laptops, because they may generate problems. I know sometimes the platform is the same, so that shouldn't be the case. But if you are used to the external competitions, EPSA competitions, remember, here the IT is a bit different. In principle, you should be allowed to use your corporate laptop. You want to use your personal laptop, not the corporate one. That's usually feasible as well, because there will be colleagues who are taking the competition, who are taking the exams, not being any more part of the external action service because the contract ended. So they need to use their personal laptop. So that's why it's perfectly feasible. Always check the invitation with all the data. Particularly in your case, as many of you maybe know, you are not in Europe, you are around the globe. So be very sure that you have identified the time slot that you are given for your exam. Usually invitations are referred to European time, to Brussels time. They try to arrange what we have seen on previous internal competitions. They try to arrange to the different timetable, time zones of of the candidates, in order to accommodate, to find some fair time for all. But still, be very careful with the invitation on regarding the time. If it's clearly indicated that it's Central European time, Brussels time, or it's other time zone, that the one that is indicated. In the case of your competition, it's a must. That's one thing. Of course, always foreseen that the exam takes 50 minutes, 40 minutes, the multiple choice, and then the written could be 60, 90, 120 minutes. Fine, but still there is a slot between the two exams. There's usually a break, and you need to connect earlier. And there could be any technical issue, and then you start your exam later. That could be not from you. I'm thinking about in one. It was an external competition in EPSO where the server didn't work properly, so candidates couldn't connect in at the time mark, and they started the exam, all of them, 15, 20 minutes later. I don't think they will have it to you, but just to expect unexpected, meaning that don't put extra pressure on you by just saying, "Oh no, I will end my exam at 1 p.m. sharp." Let's say I'm having a lunch meeting at 1:15, and I need 15 minutes to get into the place. So I will be getting nervous because I need to get to my place because I'm getting late. Don't do that. At least leave it 1 hour before, 1 hour later, so you have some margin of maneuver to whatever it happens. Read always the instructions. You will get plenty of documents with instructions. Believe me, it's worth it. At the end, it helps a lot. If you are offered the opportunity to do a mock exam, as is the case with TestWe, do it. I mean, what happens if I don't do it? Will I be disqualified? No, you won't in principle, no. But you are not allowed to protest for the technical problems that you may face the day of the exam, for instance. And also will help you to get acquaintance with the interface, with everything that you got in front of you. That's why we always advise the mock exam. The earliest, the better as well. Because if you have any technical problem, then you have plenty of time to call, to contact the organizer saying, guys, this is not working, help me. There will be instruction on how to fix those problems as well. And also for the multiple choice, the typical feeling of the candidate, I really need 50 out of 50. I really need to do it fast. No, you don't need to do it fast, because time doesn't count, in the sense that provided you answer all the questions within the time limit, that's fine. I mean, you don't get extra points for doing it faster. You get extra points by doing it right. What is the difference? And the second, don't think that you need 50 out of 50 women. When you approach a multiple choice, you don't have to think, oh, for God's sake, I need to get the maximum points. Yeah, sure. I mean, we agree with you. But don't think that there will be difficult questions. There will be questions that are clearly top level, in the sense that to put some threshold to the candidates. So if it's a very difficult question, it will be difficult probably for you and for all the candidates. So meaning that if you fail that difficult question, you won't be alone. Meaning that by pure statistical effect, most of the candidates fail that one. There's another difficult question. Maybe you answer randomly to the two difficult questions. One of them you get it right, you get it another you get it wrong. For the other candidates will be similar. The problem is when you get an easy question. How many countries are in the European Union now? How many member states does the European Union have? 26, 27, 28, 29. Click, 29. Uy, I made a mistake, a silly mistake. I clicked in the wrong number. Oh, poor me. Yeah, poor you, because that's the point that everybody got. I mean, everybody got 27. Right. So you are missing one very valuable point, because that's the one that for sure all others got it right. Those are the ones that you cannot fail. So don't concentrate in having the highest score. No, concentrate in having the less number of mistakes. Because the easy questions are the ones that you cannot afford to fail. The difficult ones, you are somehow allowed to fail some of them. I mean, if you know them, excellent. I mean, if you get a 50 out of 50, that's super. That's excellent. That gives you a lot of opportunities. But still, be realistic. Don't put an extra over pressure on you. Pressure that you don't need in order to be a successful candidate. That's some of the ideas that you need to have in your mind when you're approaching this competition and any of these exams. By the way, this advice is valid for the multiple choice in the internal and those in the external competitions. Exactly the same thing. When we talk about reading the instructions, this is an example extracted from the commission. Please, from the commission. So yours could be slightly different, but to give you an idea. Okay, so that's why it's important. So they remind you to read the document before the test. They give you all the instructions. So, but it's important that you read, because experience tells us that most of the candidates, they just read the first paragraph, maybe, if anything, and they omit the rest, or they just skip and they accept. But you don't know what you're accepting. Yeah, but I want to do it fast. No, give yourself time. Fast doesn't mean better in this case. And also another thing that probably you won't be allowed is to reschedule the exam unless a very good and official justification are. I mean, I'm pregnant and I'm delivering my child the very same day of the exam, or more or less the same day. But yeah, I mean, very likely you can contact the organizers and get another date. Or I'm really in a task force mission, doing an impossible mission that I cannot replace. Contact the board, and they will evaluate if that's a valid argument. How things are going worldwide, yeah, there are plenty of, unfortunately, there are plenty of valid arguments because of relevant missions. But that's it. I mean, you need to talk to the organizer in order to change the date. Otherwise, unless you have a strong, solid excuse, you are not entitled to change the date of your exam. This warning is from the commission, but it's also in your instructions as well. So yes, for your knowledge. Let's focus now on the written test. Let's see. I prefer to start with the written test, and then I will end with the multiple choice. Yeah, I prefer to change the order. Yeah. Well, the important thing is that something that I don't know if you notice. I mean, if you are only participating in one competition, probably not normal. But it was interesting that each one of the competition has its own time frame, and it's true that, and that's also a good thing, they have adapted as well this small summary on what the exam will consist depending on the level. So on the left up, you see for ADs that will be a policy and it's an assignment based on your policies. Would you have to policy proposal and procedures. Then for ASTs, it will be more a summary, report, minutes, implementation plan. Is the blue one on the right. And then for ASTs, AC is more a minutes, letter, or note. I will give you some real examples from the latest competitions in the commission. So clearly it's a difference, but still the marking points are the same. And remember that for the written, those points count for the final score. While the multiple choice, it's only pass, not pass, and get a high score to be ranked. But for the final score, for the final reserve list, it's the written counts. And it's up to 50 points for each one of you. Then on the written, something that you have to bear in mind, the platform, the interface. As I mentioned before, we don't know if it's going to be test suite for you, as in the commission, or it's going to be another one. I haven't seen any confirmation, at least I haven't been able to detect any official confirmation. I guess you will get more information once the deadline for registering the competition is done. You will get more input on this part. But at this moment, I'm using TestWay as a reference, but based on other platforms like in the past, similar, very similar. So shouldn't be a big deal. And following one of the comments on the chat, we don't know if it's going to be the new platform that will be provided for EPSO. Remember that EPSO is different than the human resources of the External Action Service of the Commission, so they don't have to use the same tools. The thing is that for the writing, don't expect to use a elaborated word. If you are a person who has used to, on the Word document, to write a lot and to do an editing that is fantastic with colors, with change of letters, and with a lot of editing, forget it. This is not part of your exam. This is not an art competition. This is a content competition. So the content is the important thing, provided it can be read, it can be clear and easy. Okay, and of course, no autocorrect. Forget it. Usually, the autocorrect, even if it's automatic in your computer, the software that they use, that's we order, usually disable the autocorrect. So it's not available. But in any case, just be sure that you also disable it, just in case it creates conflict in your computer. Also, another element that has been problematic because it depends on the competition. External competition allow it, internal didn't, and every time it's a bit different. Is the fact that the copy paste is not available. So never practice and never get ready for this competition thinking that you will have the opportunity to copy paste a lot from the document. Work better with the idea that you won't be able to copy paste. If at the end you have the opportunity to copy paste, that's perfect, that's super, but it will help you a little bit. But if you practice just by doing copy paste, at the end you will use it no matter what in the exam, but maybe technically speaking it's not feasible. You cannot do it. So, and that's a severe limitation. Also, as well, the problem that the interface sometimes doesn't allow you to see clearly the documents and the typing area. So get used to a small screen. In principle, you can only use your computer. That's it, your laptop, and the screen of the laptop. Nothing else. Not big, large screens. That's the one that we use in the office. So I insist on the copy paste, and that was the latest instructions regarding copy paste for the writing for the commission. Just to give you an idea, of course, please check again if in your competition is otherwise, but for the moment, it's how it has been done. And nope, I see on the chat a question on if they will providing advice the documents. No, the documents are given on the spot. That's why you have for the ADs 2 hours, for the ASTs 90 minutes, and for the ASTs 60 minutes. Can it be a limit of words in your exam? In some of internal competitions, there's been a limit of words in the exam. Usually, it's described in the assignment, and most of the candidates they don't read that part. They just go too fast. They don't pay attention, and they don't read that there's a limit of words. Careful with that. Usually, the limit of words has one reason behind, and it's not to put you in a difficult situation, because the limit of words they put is usually reasonable. It's an amount of word that on an ordinary typing in the condition of the exam so on can be read, and you don't have to cut your text in order to fit in. Usually, that's it. I mean, it doesn't mean that you need to your text should be close to the limit of words. No, the score is not related to the amount of words, provided you respect the rule. But the thing is that this rule is created to avoid the blah blah, to avoid copy paste or type paste from the background information without any thinking, without any elaboration. Some candidates sometimes they think that quantity is all, and they just type whatever they have in front of them or copy paste if they were allowed or was possible in the system to do the writing test. And at the end, they get 3,000 document, several pages that is incredibly long, but says nothing. That it doesn't provide any insight. It doesn't reply the real assignment. So the limit of words it's linked to that, to provide quality instead of quantity. Don't get obsessed with the limit of words, provided your text is within that limit. I wrote 1,205 words instead of 1,200 words. Fine. I mean, we don't think that you will be penalized. But if you write 1,400 words and the limit was 200, of course, you will be penalized somehow because you are not respecting the rules. I mean penalized, but I don't mean fail. So far, we haven't detected cases so far where people could be failed just because of that. I mean, if they failed, there were other factors in the exam, and there was not the part that they were over the threshold. But still, respect all the rules, all the available rules, and also don't get too worried about the amount of documents. Usually, they are in line with the level of the competition, meaning that ADs will have more documents, ASTs less, and ASTs should have less than the other two competitions. That's usually the standard. And of course, regarding the dates, yeah, usually they play with that and indicating the year XX instead of a real year. That's this way of proceeding. So, from previous exam, just to give you some ideas, some references. One note for your head of unit: assess the current situation, policy recommendations on what area on biodiversity. This was for generalist general competition. So don't, in principle, this is EU policies. Don't expect that it will be necessarily in relation with the foreign affairs or external relations. They could be those could be documents about artificial intelligence. Perfectly. And in principle, it's not topic related. It's not field related. You're right. It's for competencies. It's open. We are offering this as a reference from previous competitions, of course, and that's a lesson that we have learned in the internal competitions of the Commission. Each board has their own will and their own criteria in order to propose the assignments and the questions and the documents. So things may be different. Yeah, there's a possibility, but still, what has happened in the last years was in line with this. Just to give you some references, some perspective. Being more details, if we go for the 86, it was the topics were demographic changes, and the assignment was writing a policy paper where they have to cover the main issues, areas of intervention, make recommendations, and there was a potential fourth task in the first email done by the boss or by the head of unit. That was more or less the idea for an AD. In this case, 6. Makes sense, right? I mean, for AD, policy, detecting, analyzing the issues, analyzing rather than summarizing. Areas of intervention, so it requires some elaboration, some thinking, and proposal recommendations. So yeah, just like a policy officer will do. So this is a classic example. But just to give you an idea, in the latest AD competition by the Commission, 86, it was quite controversial because the first day they got a lot of assignments, very scattered, while on the second day it was more concrete. It was only 2 assignments, very concrete. It was a big discrepancy between the day 1 and day 2. That show us that, again, what I mentioned, each board has their own criteria, and sometimes they diverge totally. But still, work related, policy related, documents on any topic, and all of you will be at the same level in order to deal with that. Also, that's why we tend to think that your topic won't be connected at all with external relations, just to avoid that those who are working as you are working on the inside. But imagine that it's a Middle East topic rather than Far East. So Middle East colleagues have advantage compared to the others. So if they get a topic that is not touching foreign affairs, well, all of you should be more or less at the same level. The parting point. But overall, for a competition, should be fair. That's for ADs. But what about ASTs? For the ASTs on the this is coming from the latest competition of the commission. So the assignment asks for bullet points, it's a kind of summary, right, of the documents provided. The fighter get missing this information. To check one single offer from a tech company for a tool that it was in connection with the first task. It was an IT tool, and then do an assessment, right? Do an assessment and propose some elements to check what we need and what they offer, what is missing, and overall thoughts. So, giving your proposals on that part. So it's not so much policy, but more practical approach, more to do things in an active manner. Another thing that was quite typical is an action plan or task, some list of tasks. That is very typical for an HT profile. And for the HTAC, so summary, classic, could be a letter, or in this case was a summary and then a letter, an email to organize a parallel meeting. By the way, on the email, please, remember, if you're writing a letter or an email, never sign it. Because it's quite common for us. We're typing, kind regards, and you go. Yeah. No. I mean, don't do that. Even if you want to leave it empty, and so you write the email, the core email, dear sirs, or dear colleagues, or dear whatever, you write your text, and kind regards, point. That's it. No more than that. Remember that you will be disqualified if you write your name in the exam. So I'm saying this because this is something that is still happening. It's not. I'm not inventing. I mean, we know from candidates once in a while they make this mistake. It's a very silly mistake. It's because we are nervous. We don't pay attention to that because we are trying to control everything else. At the same time, it's a honest and volunteer mistake, but can cost us dearly. And it's a pity that all our effort, all what we have done, ends in just a simple thing as I wrote by mistake my name. Please don't do it. So hope I managed to make it clear. And then last present for all of you is our approach or strategy on how to deal with the written test. So this is a proposal of a strategy. And from here you adapt and you make it your own. But it's a starting point. You see what fits you better. Because what we propose is, first of all, you scan the documentation. You need to know what is in your hands and what do you need to do. Understanding the assignment and then reading, no. Scanning the documentation, meaning looking at the documents to know, oh, email from the boss. Next, offer from a company. Next, opinion from a colleague. Next, another email. Next, small report on the situation. Next, another email. Okay, good. I know what is in my booklet, my document. what is this each part. And then if I link that with the assignment, I know that maybe for the first point, I should go to the fourth document. For the second point, I would need the input from the emails. And for the final assignment, I will need the input from the missing document. Super. I got it. I have a plan. Now I start reading. At that moment, you go through the document, just going through them and taking notes. It's reading and taking notes. What happens if I type slow? I'm doing the HTAC, 60 minutes, and it takes me more than 20-25 minutes to take notes. Fine, sometimes happens, but be sure that in the writing, you don't have to digest, you don't have to write or retype much more. So you can do it in less than 20-25 minutes. At the end, it's a question of compensating each one. Oh no, look, I read and take notes very fast, but then as my notes are very synthetic, I need to expand, to develop them. That's why I need more time for writing. Good, so you know that. So dedicate less time to reading, dedicate more time to writing. Depends on you. At the beginning, we suggest to start with the same time, so you detect where do you need more time and less time. Simple as that. Don't forget to review always. Why? Because it's very common as well when you are doing the writing that you start typing, you think that you have written the best paragraph ever, a beautiful idea, incredible text, super excellent, and then you read it again and you realize that half sentence is missing, or the idea is not clearly understandable. Because one thing is what you read with your head, what you had here, and another thing what is on the paper, on the digital interface. So, and you need to be sure that the two things are the same. But that's why you need to review, because many times we have seen that, oh, what they wrote here doesn't make sense. No, my idea was the following. I need to redraft, or I need to change the position of the commas because it's changing the meaning of the sentence. That's why always reviewing is needed. Not only for the typos, that in principle, the quality of the language or your level of the language is not assessed, but the quality, yes, in the sense that it can hinder communication. If you commit too many mistakes and typos and the reader cannot understand your text, that's a problem. Your score will go down. And it's not because of the typos themselves, it's because of the communication is not good. So this is something that it's important to retain. And of course, in each proposal, we have gathered 5-10 minutes of buffer. You decide how to allocate that. That I want to give my buffer to the reading rather to the writing, or to the writing rather than the reading. Fine, up to you. The only way to know how this is how this works for you, or what would be the best strategy for you, is by practicing. No, there are no miracles. There are no shortcuts. You need to practice a bit in order to know how to do it, because also that's part of the challenge of the writing. You can be great, you can be excellent in drafting and writing, but in real life you usually have the opportunity to discuss with a colleague. I will take a coffee now, I will have a short break, and then I will come back later with fresh mind to review my input. Super. Or no, I have to deliver it tomorrow, so I drafted today, I sleep, and tomorrow back in the office I check with fresh eyes. Something that a lot of people do. But the thing is that you have only 60, 90, or 120 minutes in the exam to deliver. You don't have that luxury here. You have a very limited time. And that's something that can be difficult for many candidates. Not because they are not good or they are bad professionals. No, they are excellent. There is no doubt on that. The problem is, are they used to work under such pressure? Are they used to work under the strains and the limitation of the 60, 90, or 120 minutes? That's what you need to tackle in order to succeed in this test. Okay. This is for the writing. So hope this is clear, because now I'm moving to the multiple choice. Few characteristics and then some sources of study. That probably is the main reason why you are here today. So the beauty of it is that it's the same for all of you. I mean, we literally screenshot the definition of the multiple choice for each one of you. 50 minutes for all, same characteristics. Good, right? I like it. Then, on the multiple choice itself, important to remember, in principle, based on previous competitions, if it's the same day, it's the same question for all. What happens if they split my exam for ASTs? They split it in 2 dates. Probably the questions will be different, date 1 and date 2. Some questions can be solved as a pure verbal reasoning exercise. What makes sense, what doesn't make sense in what you are reading, rather than pure knowledge. That's our experience so far. It's quite typical also questions about what is right or what is wrong. Examples like that. What is true about Cyber Resilience Act? And you have 4 options, and one is true and the others not. Or the contrary, what is not an objective of the foreign policy? And they give you 4 objectives, 3 are real, and 4 is not. Here we need to be careful, because if we are moving too fast and we don't pay attention, we just click on the first option that we see that is right, but maybe there were several options right because we had to choose the wrong one. That's why we say don't rush. You have 50 minutes, you have every time in the world in order to tackle the exam. I mean, so far in our experience with the multiple choice, none of the candidates ran out of time. People went until the end, or they stopped the clock earlier, but still plenty of time to finalize the exercise. So don't be worried about that. Be worried about giving the right answer. And then for the cancellation policy, just check the notice to be all the details. Usually it was a kind of rule of 3 on the reallocation of points. In the internal competition or latest internal competition of the commission, they have to cancel really a lot of questions, and that's been a bit of controversy. But we hope that the lesson was learned by the organizers of your competition, so your competition will have 50 questions and all of them will be valid for your exam. So some ideas of the question, but remember, your exam could be different. We'll try to cover that eventuality. So depends on the level of the competition. It's true that it can be perceived at different level of the questions. Sometimes, even if it can be perceived, the real difference of difficulty is not so high. So I'm thinking more about ADs and ASTs. It's true that what we have seen so far is the competition for ASTs, ACs. The general knowledge required for the competition, it's lower, sensibly lower than the other competitions. But for ASTs, ADs, it's not so many differences. There are some, but not so many. In general, what we advise is that prepare for the AD level, as nothing guarantees that at the end the exams will be so different. The trend is one, but it's not a rule. It's only a trend that we know afterwards. So better to get ready and be prepared for the worst, expecting the best. So that we have studied really a lot, and then the exam is super simple, and we know all the questions. Excellent, you got 50 points. Mission accomplished. But you couldn't know before the exam. So if you get ready for easy exam and then the exam is very difficult and you fail, mission not accomplished. That's the important thing. Get ready for the worst. For example, so digital decade, targets, European health data space, countries that qualify for IPA assistance, or target of the EU climate law, global Europe. I think that sounds you. Two instruments, two instruments of it: immigration, Lisbon Treaty, Sustainable Development Goals, Digital Euro, Kids for EU staff members. This is a compendium of questions, some ideas. No, I will mention then on the next slides what happened in the last competition, internal competitions of the Commission. So just to recapitulate, some advice on the multiple choice. Based on our experience, this is not just saying, it's what we've seen. If you get access to the old questions, please don't study them in the sense that they will repeat the question. No, every time they are different. Topics can be repeated, but questions are not. So meaning that if in the old questions from previous competitions, you see some topics that you haven't studied and they are still valid, it's not, they are not referred to a policy that now it's outdated or something like that. So you can study them and use as a reference, but don't consider that they will be the same questions. So always study the topic, not the questions. As the amount of knowledge that you need to gather for this competition is huge, the mind maps, the idea of writing pen and paper, literally pen and paper, writing down the key ideas, the key data, it's crucial. It helps you a lot in order to grasp all this knowledge. Just the idea of studying from a book is not enough because we are talking about EU policies and they are changing every day. There are movements in the content every day as we speak. So it's very difficult to have one document that contains everything from now until the day of the exam. Things are going to evolve and you need to reflect that in your knowledge. And for that, a mind map is perfect. It will help you to integrate the different elements easily. Oh yeah, another thing. Study plan. That's another gift that we have for you. This is this is a proposal in 12 steps. But as we put below, the idea is that in emergency, each step can be 1 day of study, full day of study. This is a very fast approach, but your exam is expected in October. So my advice is that even you could consider each step 1 week, meaning that not the whole week, but few hours or a couple of hours 1 day, another day I rest, another day 3 hours, another day 1 hour, another day just reading a couple of things, half an hour. So it could consider 1 week and still you get there. So we propose to start with the treaties, always a must, because the basic rules are always there. Then priority number one of the political priorities of the European Commission. That is a big monster. It has a lot of content. Yeah, that would be interesting. And then don't forget to, as this is a huge political priority, you could do a test on multiple choice and practice with a writing. So you start to get familiar with the challenge of the test and how to proceed. Then priority number 2 and 3 together, as the 3 is not so big. The second priority is large. I think that you know better than me on that part, but that's it. And then some more practice. Then we can just go forward, keep studying the priorities. Then as the step number 8, the agencies and institutions, don't forget to study them, especially for you who are part of the external action service. You are familiar with a lot of bodies, groups, things that need to know just in case. Then the history of the European Union, the elections as they were last year, but still could be quite vivid in the memory of the assessors. The commission selection process. I know this is coming from the last year, but still, why not? Eurostat, staff regulations. For an internal, the staff regulation, I think it's a must. It's been part of the competition as a subject of questions several times. And then we keep practicing the multiple choice and the writing. We review the recapitulation. And the last step is just a pure recapitulation and some rest. Never the day before kill yourself studying. I mean, always study little by little. Do the effort earlier before the exam. Just rest because it will give you more lucidity, more capacity in order to tackle the exercises, the exam itself. Okay. Then what to study? I mean, I propose you a plan. By the way, the presentation will be available for you on YouTube on our means. So, and with the presentation, there go some links on the sources that we are commenting. So you can click on them and use them as a study. So, or present for you. So, and also another present that it was from human resources in the HT3 competition in 2024 in the commission. They provide, it's the single competition that provide a list of materials. So far, no other competition has provided it. I mean, honestly, half of the documents I didn't like them personally. I think they were not very useful, but still, it gave us an idea, overall idea of what to study and what to include. It worked well. So you see political priorities. Of course, now it should be the 24, 29. not the 1924. The Commission Work Program, the UN figures, the more recent documents, especially the ones on top, yes. Then the other ones that come later, some of them were useful, some others not. We're going to see that. Well, let's propose you an update on this. Now, first of all, the main sources. So, the summary of the von der Leyen Commission. Remember that last year, before the elections, so right at the time, the von der Leyen Commission, when it was closing its period, issued some documents that summarize all their achievements, everything that has been done in the last 5 years. It's a pretty good summary. It's been a while. It will be more or less 1 year after when you take the exam, so you need to complete information. But still, in the meantime, it's quite good. The political program with the political priorities for this mandate is a must. Then the report on the commission on last year, and of course the External Action Service web. For everything that is connected with your service, you have in your web a lot of information regarding those aspects about the different committees, council configuration, or any other body that could be involved. We tend to assume that could be a few more questions than usual, many usual compared to Commission internal competitions in relation with the External Action Service. So that could be expected, but not granted. Some other sources, the working program of the Commission 2024-2025. Remember that Callas, the High Representative, is also Vice President of the Commission. So these are two good recapitulation of policies. So don't forget to check on that part. Then the EU in 2024. This was published a few months ago. It's quite good. Now the format is quite particular because they have displayed on a web that is interesting. It's designed to read little by little instead of a big book. I think it's quite comprehensive and nice. So I have it as one of my tops in my own personal list of documents to study. Policy in the making. So how policy is done, how regulation is done. You never know, man. So that's why as the topic that we prefer to bring also the European Citizens Initiative, but also the public consultations and the citizens dialogue that are not happening. Those are topics that are not quite present in the reality in the day by day of the institutions. So that's why we like to mention them for studying. The type of institutional bodies is where you have all the explanation of all the different items, agencies, independent bodies, institutions that are present. Then the ABC of EU law. I mean, if you are starting, if you are new on this competition and you're insecure or you feel that you need some extra reinforcement or to see the connection between law, regulation, policy, the treaties, or what you do. So the ABC of EU law is quite well explained. It's a quite interesting document. It's available in all the languages. It's not too long, 150 pages, 160. And even you can ask for a hard copy, so for free. So it touches plenty of policies. So it's an interesting document because as a starting point, if we don't know what to do, it's excellent. And even if we know, it's always a refreshing summary on many aspects. And then some of the documents available about the facts and figures of the European Union. There are some summaries. This one I like it, but I know there are some others. Always interesting because sometimes they have the mean intention of asking you for some facts and figures of the European Union in the test. I don't think that those are the most suitable questions for an officer, but still, they are in their own right to ask those questions. And then, approaching the end, the staff regulations. In fact, this list is not coming from what we saw from the ST3 competition. This was something that we already had in the past. prepare, because it was since the 3-4 years ago that we saw that it was needed in the competitions, in the internal competitions, to study the staff regulations. You don't have to study the whole of it, but just the article selected there. That should be more than enough to cover the topic. The private law and handling contacts with representatives of third countries in link to the staff regulations, something that appear on the internal inputs of the institutions, while considering where you are working. Could be it interesting that you review. And then some other elements that we don't want to be traumatic, because we've seen that in the last internal competition of the Commission, the some imbalances in the test, in the multiple choice, create some trauma among the candidates. I think could be somehow justified because it was a bit unfair how focused the tests were on specific topics, and that's why we are trying to bring you some of these ideas. So the elections, that could be it, but above all, the sustainable development goals, check them, review them, just in case. Then beyond that, the reports, or the reports, the NINISTO, if I said correctly, defense, security, external relations. This is the base for the new plans of military that are appearing, but still, considering your domain of expertise, it will be good if you check on that report. The tracking report, it's a must. This was one of the source materials that create the trauma from the candidates, because it was clearly expected to have 15 out of 50 questions on the tracking report in a level of detail that was very difficult to reach. I mean, it was a bit too much, and I think most of the questions that were cancelled in that competition, that were 11, came from that part. So it was unfair on the candidates, but still, they ask. And the letter report, that is also complementary to the tracking report, just in case. I mean, now that you have time, I mean, you're on the beach, you want to read something, well, you could read a summary of this just to have a general idea. Why not? I mean, but have them in your radar. We don't want to have nasty surprises. The other nasty surprise I didn't mention, but it's part of the political priority, so it was a bit, if I'm allowed to say, a bit less unfair, although it was a bit unfair. It was the pillar of social rights. In one of the multiple choice, it was 15 questions about the pillar of social rights. That is quite comprehensive. It's a very big policy, but it's a policy. It's not a report like this. So still, it was a bit of a surprise for some candidates, but I think that those who took the exam with the pillar of social rights performed better than on the first day, but because at least it's something that they have studied. Maybe not so much, so some questions escape, but at least good enough in order to have an answer and not to panic. Yep. Last but not least, before we go to your questions, is some elements that we can do for you, ya somos europeos. Besides these webinars, where we try freely to share with you our vision of your competition and help you so you can prepare by yourselves, we also offer some other complementary materials that if you want to use, like more than 1,200 questions of multiple choice. It's the one that has been successfully used by many candidates on the internal competitions of the Commission. So we also compile more materials and more elements that we think they are valid and they are useful for all of you. We have a pre-exam session before the exam in order to provide you orientation and last inputs. And of course, let's not forget that all our partner entities, they have discounts. So you can find about our entities and about the training in our web. And then in general, if you're interested for other competitions, so the CBT training, so verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning test, for any other competition, we provide trainings. So always feel free to visit us and contact us for further help. So, and with this, and just last but not least, if you're watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to click on like The algorithm always appreciate that. I mean, it's for free, guys. So you can do it, or follow us on LinkedIn and on WhatsApp or Telegram in order to get the latest news from us, and also some vacancies and some other relevant information. We promise not to pester you with many messages. Just inform, and you're free to take it with you or not. And of course, whatever we said today is for helping you, but still read instructions. Read all the informal information that you may get from the organizers, because that will help you a lot as well. And let's go. Let's go for your questions. By the way, on the picture is La Croqueta, is our trainee that is helping us always with as a community manager. You can see her on Twitter. The photo profile is hers. Okay, I go for your questions. I see the Caroline. Where can you practice or get mock exams? There are not much on free available sources. We on our blog we have uploaded some examples of free access, and that's it. Also, well, you have the in episode. There's a few questions on new knowledge as well. That's it. Usually on the internal competitions, they don't offer any materials or any examples. So at least on free access, that's it so far. Otherwise, you should go for any supplier to get more questions. What is true for the written test? Intro, body, conclusion depends on the document. I mean, simple structure, that's always the rule, and depends on what they're asking. If they're asking you for a briefing, maybe the briefings they always contain this essence setter, the main ideas, speaking points, background, defensives. That's the classic structure for a briefing. But a summary is a simple. You have a short introduction to the topic, main ideas, one per paragraph, closing remark, conclusion, or paragraph that allow to close the whole input. That could be it. In any case, there is not, if they are looking for a prefix structure, if they are looking for a very specific structure, as this is not an exam of knowledge, the writing, it's about competencies, they should give you a reference. Imagine that they ask you to write a legal document. They should give you another legal document as a reference in order to copy paste to adapt the structure, for instance. You are not lawyers, some of you may be, but this is not an exam of law. So if they want a legal document, they should give you that structure beforehand. So you concentrate on the content of the substance. But for a briefing, for a summary, for a letter, these are very simple structures. Don't overcomplicate yourselves. Don't think that there is a fixed rule. It's a question of clarity in your input rather than anything else. Okay, I'm going for the question. What is the discount that you will give in on the training package? Well, for the different partner entities, we have 10% discount in our trainings. And for Generation 2004, that is also a partner, we offer different type of discounts, but you have to consult with them. More questions, more comments. Everything is clear so far. Sorry. Well, if it's clear so far, I hope I managed to answer your questions. We try to do our best with the presentation to cover your typical questions. Not the first time we organize this kind of presentation. So we have learned our lessons in what are you feeling curious about. So that's why we try to cover it. So hope you like it and you found it useful above all. And of course, don't forget that you can have access to it on YouTube, as well as download the presentation. And we stay in touch. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye.